family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer, and today with me, I have the amazing Miss Carmen Morrison. I have had the opportunity to see her in the networking events, and I thought that what she had to share is important and you need to hear it. So thank you for tuning in. And Carmen, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here and share your message with us. Tell our audience members a little bit more about how you got involved doing what you do and why you do what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Right. Well, the starting point for me was when I had my first child. So this goes back a little ways, and I did ask her if I could share our story because it is a shared story between she and I. She's an amazing woman today, an amazing mom. But I'll tell you what, she was handed to me, and on day one, I looked at my husband and I said, "We're in trouble." And that's not an exaggeration. I mean, I had a kid who just neurologically reacted to everything. She couldn't nurse unless there was total silence, and the room was dark, and it just went from there. And so from my own experience of walking through that, and I'm a psychologist by profession, so I had a lot of knowledge that I brought to that situation. But I'll tell you what, when you're in the trenches, forget about it. It's tough, and all of the judgment you weather from family and people who always think they know what you should be doing because they haven't lived that every day, and the meltdowns and the arguments and the chaos in your home. Like, it can be so draining and take such a toll even on the parenting relationship with your parenting partner, your spouse. And so having lived that, and then also walked with so many families through that, and looking at what's available out there for us as parents, there really isn't a whole lot. So much is focused on the child and the child's behavior and what to do to make them behave differently. But there's just not a whole lot out there to support the parent. And one of the key things that we know is that the number one factor on whether a child is going to sort of make it in their adulthood is whether you as a parent can make it and hang in there for the long haul as their brains are developing, which takes 25 years for girls and 28 years for boys. So it's a long
Process,
time, right? It's a very long process. That's a quarter of a century that as parents, we have to hang in there and continue shaping our child's brain and helping that develop. So that's what brought me to this place of really feeling like there's a lot of knowledge available, but it hasn't been pulled together in a way that helps a parent actually put it into practice and not just survive, but be able to thrive with that child in their home and manage those really difficult times. I mean, they are tough. They just knock you, like, take all your confidence and energy, and can make you feel really bad in your own skin. And when that happens, boy, you have so little to give to your kids. So for me, it really is just coming from a place of having lived it, walked with people through it, and knowing that there's so much more than what is typically available, and that the parents don't often get the attention they need in order to be able to give the child what the child needs. So that's where that came from for me.
Got it. Cool. So, Carmen, first of all, I was expecting another 5-6 years. Now it seems like I'm not even halfway through based on what you're saying.
Sorry. That could be good news and bad news. It depends on how you look at it.
Secondly, this is really insightful. The fact that you're putting the focus actually not on the child, but actually on the parent, that you need to make it, you need to thrive, you need to show them and be along in the process, and 25, 28 years. So what you're describing here, what does that look like? What does thrive look like for a parent? How do you keep up with her? Because the kids they reach that young adulthood, 18 to 20 years, and then we become empty nesters, and but the job is not done, right?
It is not done.
So what does this look like for that extra 10 years that I wasn't planning on?
Sorry. Well, so if we're talking about that phase of development for our kids, that young adult, late adolescent, young adult phase, at that point, really, we're doing a whole lot of coaching of our kids. So if if we're able to manage the connection with our kids through that stormy time as they're developing in those younger years, the cool thing is that then in that young adult phase, which is so critical, like if you think about that, all the decisions you make between 18 and 28, who you're going to marry, where you're going to live, what you're going to do, with your life, they're big decisions, and the consequences for them are so much bigger than when our kids were little. And so if we have been able to maintain a good connection with them, then they can come to us for really essentially coaching, right? It's less of a parent role like when they were younger, and more of a resource. Number one. Number two, especially when some of those neurological things are still beating up our young adult child, which is typical because their brains are still forming. They need one safe place in the world that they can come back to when they're struggling out here. And so being that safe place for them through those years is critical, so that final brain formation really lands well for them. So it shifts, right? It's a different kind of role than when they're younger and dependent on us, but it's critical for that development, so that they have in adulthood what they need to be successful in relationships and in their own mental well-being.
Perfect. Amazing. All right. So now we have this insight. What are the typical challenges that you see people that come to you are facing? And I'm assuming that this is different for different ages, right? So teenage years, young childhood, early years versus young adult years, these are all different. So, so what do you see basically as the common things?
Well, the challenges of the specific behaviors change with development, but the challenges of the parent typically don't change so much, because the parent is managing, I think, first and foremost, fear, right? We manage a tremendous amount of fear that we don't know enough. We can't help our child. Nothing's going to work. We're overwhelmed. We're seeing specialists. We don't know who to listen to. And we just lose confidence in ourselves. Then we get reactive, and we aren't the appropriate parent that we know we should be. And I'm putting all that in quotes because those are the things that we hear or tell ourselves. And so then we feel tremendous shame and guilt and failure. So those are big things for us to be grappling with, and to be feeling every day in our home, which should be our own safe haven from the world. And it can turn out to be just this war zone that we'd avoid if we could. So I think for parents, that whole process that's happening and that we're grappling with all the time is a constant. And then we know as well that so many times dealing with that can take a real beating on our relationship with our partner, if there's a partner in the home. And so then you add the stress of conflict, because one person thinks you need to be more lenient, another one thinks you need to be more strict. And then we lose the ability to support each other, which isolates us even more. And so those are the things that I hear us struggling with a lot as parents. And that can be from 2 to 20, 25 or 28, sometimes even longer. But those are some really tough things that are happening to us. And then you have specialists and teachers and therapists telling us, you need to be doing this and you need to be doing that. And you're sitting there going, I have tried all of that. I mean, I read every book, and I would read the books and go, okay, that has nothing to do with my child. And I'd put it down. And then I'd be like, okay, still don't know what to do. And that helplessness and guilt is just deadly for a parent. And those are the big things that I see us struggling with, independent of the stage of development of our child.
Okay. I've heard of child-centered parenting, but we're talking about parent-centered parenting. So this is revolutionary.
Yeah.
And I have a question, because parents are really busy.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we get to do this without adding more things on the parents' plates?
Right. Well, that's where I think the role of a parent coach, which is what I do, is really critical, because you can't do everything without just getting completely overwhelmed, and then that just shuts us down, and then we're immobilized. Right. So being able to think through and help to weigh, okay, what is most important right now? What is within my capabilities? What isn't? Are there things that I can shift to make space for other things? And are there things that I can't shift? So working within reality is the first step, because we can't do more than what we can do. We're just, two legs, two hands, and one brain that doesn't always work even at its best. And so those are just the limitations that we have with 24 hours a day. So I think having somebody help us look at all of the suggestions that get made and all of the things we should be doing and go, okay, wait, let's bring that down to what can actually be done. I work a lot with how the brain works. And what I love about how the brain works is that when we can identify the starting point of a brain trigger, like a whole pathway, a whole circuit, and intervene there, it doesn't take huge things to make big differences. A lot of times we're trying to do that when we're already stuck. And then it's like this monumental effort. And we do that with our kids as well. So I think being able to identify within the realm of reality, what can I do, and how to find those things that are going to give me the most bang for my buck, the most impact for my effort. That, I think, is the critical thing for us as parents, so that we can stay in there for that quarter century long haul.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So what are some of the tips that you have that people who are watching this, they can kind of take away and start implementing it, so that they feel a little less overwhelmed and a little more centered?
Yeah, definitely. Well, the first thing that I think is kind of what I was just talking about is evaluating where's the place I need to put my efforts in first, because we're not going to try to do everything all at once. It's not even possible. So I really look at 4 areas, because it has to be a comprehensive approach. We're not 2-dimensional beings. We have lots of facets to us. So the things to evaluate in terms of where you start is, where is the point that most shuts me down, where I feel most stuck or most overwhelmed? Is it in my parenting relationship? Is it in my actual parenting with my child and I don't feel competent or confident in what I'm doing? Is it in my own reactivity? Is there something happening in my own, from my own experience in life or my story, that makes me so reactive? And that's working with my own brain and rewiring that so that I can stay regulated and help regulate my unregulated child in their emotions. But then also looking, another piece that is so important that gets missed so often is looking at how to support the body and the brain from even a nutritional perspective when we are stressed every day. It's very much, and there's research to this effect, it's very much like living in a war zone. And when we know what happens nutritionally in the body and for the brain when we're living in constant danger and chaos. And so we have to be able to support ourselves physically so that our brains have what they need, so that our hearts can actually be present for our child in those moments. So I really think those are the 4 areas that I always encourage parents to evaluate those. Where is the place that you think is most important for you to start, so that you have what you need to give your child what they need? And start there. So whether it's your own physical health and supporting the brain with nutrition, is it your own wiring in your brain, your own reactivity, your own triggers? Is it your relationship with your parenting partner? Or is it really directly how to parent my child in a way that helps their brain develop over time? So I think evaluating those 4 areas and picking the one place that you most need to start is the most critical thing.
Yeah, I like that part about picking the one place. And I couldn't agree more about the fact that I always say it's much easier to work with your brain than against it.
Oh, wait, you're going to lose if you work against it, every time.
So absolutely awesome. Carmen, this is a really broad topic because, there are so many demands and parents wear so many different hats. And of course, we can't cover all of that. How can people benefit from your expertise? How can they connect more with you and see your content and information?
Well, we right now I'm offering to the first 20 people who would want to sign up for that, I'm offering a free coaching session. So there's a link there where people can sign up for that, and where we can just walk through some of that, where I really specifically help you identify which of those areas are the ones that you are most needing to work with, and how you can take some steps to get started in that in a way that works within your capacity, not beyond that, which is critical. Also have an ebook there that's offering for people that is just how to prepare your brain for change, because a lot of times we just don't even realize that there are things that we can do before the moment that help us cope with the moment far better. And so when we're trying to change something, getting our brains in a place where it's receptive to that is really an important thing. So I have an ebook that is free to people who are joining us for this conversation that they can have access to.
That is very kind and generous of you. I appreciate it. And we'll put all the links for both how to get in touch with Carmen and book an appointment and the book and all the amazing stuff that she has for you in the chat box. Guys, it is extremely important to teach our kids that we don't have to have all the answers, and that we know how to ask for support and help. And there's no shame in it. It's actually the natural and normal way of getting anything done as humans. We are social creatures, and that's how we have built our civilization. So very, very important to role model that behavior. I highly encourage you to reach out to Carmen, connect, and benefit. And Carmen, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here and share this expertise with us. I know for sure that I have certainly some extra planning that I need to do. And for our audience members, if you haven't already done so, make sure that you click subscribe so you get notifications of all the experts that come here, share their message and gifts like this one. And any final words, Carmen, before we finish our session today?
It can be so discouraging and feel so alone. And I just want people to know, like you just said, you do not have to go it alone. In fact, we can't. We are not made to be successful on our own. And so just encourage people to find a place that they can connect with that gives them the support that they need.
Absolutely. Well said. Thank you so much. Until next time. Cheers.